This week on Dynasty Domain, we are going through and doing a 3-round or the first 3 rounds of a bigger Superflex mock draft. So we're looking forward to the 2023 offseason. We're going to look at how the startup drafts are shaking out as we sit almost in the playoffs of this season. It should be fun. I'm Avery Huffman.
I'm Nathan Schmidt.
Welcome to Dynasty Domain. All right, let's jump into it. So, again, we got 12 guys. We're going to do a 12-team Dynasty mock draft. It is a Superflex tight end premium league. So what we did is we went and got 12 of our, well, not including us, 10 of our closest league mates and confidants, and we did a mock draft. So we're recording this on Monday, December 5th, before the Monday night game of the Buccaneers and the Saints. And happy birthday, Nathan. It's Nathan's birthday today, and he's just getting older now, and he got a pretty new Mahomes jersey for his birthday, courtesy of Dynasty Domain. So, obviously, reason to celebrate. So, because of Nathan's birthday, we are doing this podcast. Not really. We're going to do it anyways. It's not that special. All right, let's get into it. So, we're going to start in round 1. We're going to do the first 3 rounds this week. We'll do the next 3 rounds, and then anything after that, like that is interesting that we'll touch on, we'll do that next week. So it'll be a 2-parter here. We'll jump in. We're going to go through all these picks. We're going to give you the breakdown of how we expect this to change or not change over the next or over the last, couple weeks of the season here, and what we like, what we dislike, what's surprising, etc. You're going to find that there are a lot of surprising things in this mock draft. Let's get into it. So, with the first pick in the draft, it was either going to be Mahomes or Allen, unless you're a tool. And so Mahomes went at the 1, Allen went at the 2. At this point,
Love to see it.
I don't think you're picking anybody else here. Justin Herbert did go at number 3, which is interesting.
That was surprising.
It's interesting, even as a self-proclaimed Justin Herbert lover. I do say I have to put Burrow in the same tier. Logan H7, who is the guy who picked Herbert there, he said he'd still take Herbert, and obviously, I love that. I know Goma Juice also said he would take Herbert there too.
But would you at this point would you say that Mahomes and Allen are a tier above Herbert and Burrow?
I would say I'd put those 2 in the top tier and put Herbert and Burrow in the second tier.
Okay.
So, right. Yeah, the first 2 guys, but I'll give everybody a shout out, by the way. Papa Score picked first, Rye Bread picked second. So then it was Logan at 3, and then Ole at the 4 took Joe Burrow. So again, I said this in the chat of the mock draft, and we had a little bit of a discussion about it. I don't in my opinion, and tell me if you agree with this or not, I don't think anybody besides these 4 should go in the top 4.
I'm with you there.
I think this is pretty clear consensus. Like if you're actually, it's just opinion. If you're picking smart for Dynasty, I think these are the 4 guys. Now, I think Goma Juice made a good point in that guys are probably going to slip in there, as, the startup drafts can be unpredictable. I think the guys that would be Deshaun if he plays well for the last couple weeks of the season, which I wouldn't be terribly against that. Hurts definitely will, and I think if he gets paid, that will change things. I'm definitely not taking Hurts over any of these guys, but
no way.
Even if he gets paid.
Yeah, and with Burrow, I think if you're taking him at the 4, there are a lot of people that were taking him at the 104 at the beginning of last season or before last season started.
Yeah.
And I remember we were making a big deal about don't take Burrow at the 104, and the big thing was the rushing upside, and it's or lack thereof.
You can just put the stat on the screen right now. Because I'm the one that was preaching, like, look, Justin Herbert can give you 300 yards of rushing a season, and even that extra 30 points is going to give him a leg up.
Yeah, and
Joe Burrow is out rushing him, I think.
Yeah.
Or it's close.
And not to mention, Burrow's weapons are just better. We knew that going into the season, but having that long-term security and just an overall better situation in Cincinnati, it's
Joe Burrow is outscoring him right now, points per game wise, by 6 points. The weapons are better. He is just as good as a pocket passer. Again, I like Herbert more. I'm slightly biased, as you can tell by what I'm wearing, but at the same time, I think I don't want to say we missed because it's not like we weren't taking Burrow in the first round, but I do think I think it's worth admitting that we are definitely taking.
We missed big time because we were so adamant about it.
Yeah,
it wasn't a major issue, and we made it a major.
The guys
issue.
you were picking over Burrow though were fine, so you're probably in fine shape. But yeah, we were saying that last year.
Well, what we were swearing by was taking Deshaun over Joe Burrow, and that still has yet to be seen. True. We don't quite know yet.
Yeah,
but that. I mean, if you're looking for long-term security and who you're more comfortable with now, I have no problem with you taking Burrow, and I really think that's got to be the right move. There is no receiver, no running back, and no other quarterback, no, not even Jalen Hurts, that you should be taking over Joe Burrow right now.
I do think this is where it gets interesting kind of after this, though. So at the 5 in Walker, went ahead and took Justin Jefferson. Look, you could take Jefferson.
I liked it.
You could take Jefferson in any of these, any of this quarterback range, and it's going to be a good pick. I mean, Justin Jefferson, the clear wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. The man is generational, unbelievable. He is producing at a crazy level in fantasy. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't take Justin Jefferson hardly anywhere besides, right up front. 22 points a game in PPR leagues. He's outscoring Justin Herbert. Like,
he's unbelievable.
Now,
talk about one thing we hit on. Usually Jeff and Jamar were going back to back in startup drafts. Oftentimes even Jamar Chase going ahead of Justin Jefferson because of that. Just that speed and that big play, Tyreek-esque ability that Jamar Chase has. And I feel like at this point, it's not really even a debate. Justin Jefferson is a tier above everyone else.
Yeah, it absolutely. I think Justin Jefferson's in his own tier. Up there at the top. So then Travis McKee went ahead and took Jalen Hurts, which is not surprising. He's an Eagles fan, and all Philly fans are the worst. So
truly,
we went ahead and expected that. Honestly, though, Jalen Hurts probably going to get paid this offseason. I don't think you can fault anyone for taking him this high at this point. Like, we don't like him.
You think he'll get paid this offseason?
I think so.
You don't think they'll wait another year?
I don't know. I mean, they could, but I think the bottom line is, though, he's going to get paid.
I'll tell you what, I think it's solely dependent on how they do in the postseason this year. They have no business.
We'll see.
They have no reason to not be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it will be because of Jalen Hurts' limitations.
25 points a game in PPR leagues. I mean,
great in fantasy.
So great fantasy quarterback. And I think the Eagles, with their success, I don't think there's any way they let him go. Obviously, there's a possibility of that. But Nathan is actually at the 1-7 here, and Nathan takes Deshaun Watson.
I went with Deshaun. I mean, at this point, you're looking at the tail end of those elite producing those quarterbacks that have an elite producing ceiling in fantasy. And at this point, I'm like, okay, they all have roughly the same ceiling. So at this point, I'm looking at contract situation, and I'm looking at how long do these teams have to hold on to these quarterbacks, regardless of how they do. This is why I think Russell Wilson may be of value wherever he's going. Actually, I just saw where he went.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Yeah. Not going to tell you where he went later on in the draft. But Deshaun, I mean, he's got $250 million guaranteed in Cleveland. He ain't going nowhere. And there is just, my personal opinion is Kyler Murray he has more rushing upside than Deshaun Watson, no problem. That was the other guy I was debating between. Actually, Lamar was probably the number one guy I was planning, and the reason I took Deshaun is because Lamar doesn't have that contract yet. There is an outside chance that he could be tagged by Baltimore this offseason. I don't think he would play if he got tagged, in my opinion. But there's a lot of stuff going on there. Lamar having for the second year in a row, a pretty big deal injury. He's probably going to miss a couple of weeks, and that's killing you in fantasy in the playoffs. At the end of the day, you want those QBs that you can rely on for the entire season. And Lamar, for the second year in a row, has proven that he is not proven, but he's shown that he may not be reliable long-term in terms of durability. If not saying he's injury prone, but it was scary for sure. Deshaun just doesn't run as much as Lamar does. And that contract, like I said, alone is why I got to take him over Kyler. I have to take him over Lamar. Kyler has that big deal contract too, but I think Deshaun is just straight better.
Well, and I think
Murray is.
We're ranking Deshaun a tier above both those guys anyway, so really I don't think that comes as a surprise at all. So then the next tier guys go, Kyler Murray is taken by Kriegs, and between Kyler and Lamar, it's kind of like I don't think you can blame anybody for either of them. I think and Kriegs is a Ravens fan. Like,
yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough to not take Kyler and Lamar at these next two picks.
Yeah, I took Lamar here. And I'm going to explain my thought process and probably what you need to look out for in these dynasty Superflex drafts this offseason, but to me, it was definitely I'm taking a QB in the first round no matter what. The best non-QB on the board was obviously Jamar Chase, but I'm thinking about this. I've got Lamar and Fields and Prescott and Lawrence and Tua on the board. I mean, I think Lamar has the highest ceiling out of those guys. I think Lamar is going to get paid. I think there's an off chance, it's a very small chance that Lamar goes to a new team, and if he were to, there'd be so much hype around that Lamar's value would skyrocket to a point where I could probably get out of him for something like astronomical. I think there's always that chance with these free agent guys. So, with Lamar, no brainer. It's a super flex league. I'm taking a quarterback.
Yeah. And that's why, again, if you took Lamar at the 1-7 ahead of Deshaun, I really can't I can't hate that either, because there is that chance, like you said, he could have a value spike again this offseason. He will with the big deal regardless.
Yeah.
And if he goes to another team on top of that, that's a better situation with better receivers and just a better offense overall. Like, I don't know how you couldn't be excited about that. And if you're not comfortable with his long-term durability, you have concerns about that, you can probably go sell him for a lot of good stuff. So
at the 110 here we've got a jumper. Justin Fields, obviously jumping up into the first round of startups. You really can't argue with this. I mean, Justin Fields is the QB5. Essentially, I mean, I don't know. He's technically is his second year. They're not getting rid of him. You've probably got 2 more years in him. They have not built a team around him yet, so I'm assuming they're not going to kick him out if they continue not to win games, because really, honestly, it's not his fault. He's played at a very high level. His rushing upside is completely elite, and the passing volume remains a question, but Justin Fields obviously making a huge jump in his second year up to the first round, and you can't really blame people for that.
I can.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I don't want to go on too long of a Justin Fields rant,
don't. Nobody's going to care.
This is even worse than Jalen Hurts. And people were really fortunate that Jalen Hurts ended up being what he is this year, and I realize we were wrong. We've admitted that. Fine. He's produced at a higher level, which we said he would do in fantasy. We just didn't expect him to look super amazing doing it. With Justin Fields, I cannot get behind it. He is literally the definition of a running back playing quarterback. He, to me, is Robert Griffin III, reborn, but a worse passer. I mean, everyone loves to look at those highlights. I'm telling you, the highlights are so much fun to watch. I love watching Justin Fields. I love watching the Bears. He literally, I think it's been the last 4 games. How many interceptions has he thrown the last few games?
He threw 2 last game. He threw 1 the 2 games before. So in the last 3 games, he's thrown 4 interceptions.
Yeah, and every single one of those final interceptions that he had in that game was in the fourth quarter, when they had the chance to win the game.
I mean, he's 23. I don't expect him to. Is he
dude,
generational in terms of being a field general? Absolutely not.
Everyone loves to make a big deal about how Lamar shouldn't be super high in QB value above some of these guys that are ahead of him because of his passing or lack of passing ability. Fields is so much worse. And I'm not saying he can't get better. He can make that Jalen Hurts jump. But do you really think that the move to get Chase Claypool was
nothing.
Build around Justin Fields? No, it's nothing. And
they're gonna draft. They're gonna draft a JSN type.
Yeah, but I'm telling, dude, he can't even make screen passes.
I know
he was missing screen.
He's not a
passes
good passer.
Yesterday.
But then again, neither was Jalen Hurts.
He's a great fantasy asset.
But here's the thing: Fields is good enough. He absolutely could improve. We said the same thing about Hurts, and Hurts proved us wrong.
But that's my problem: is why does Jalen Hurts have to be the reason that you're also validating Justin Fields' poor quarterback play?
I don't know. I don't like his weapons. I don't love Eberflus as a quarterback.
There's nothing I like about Justin Fields. I'm taking Jamar Chase over him all day.
Yeah, I think I would have taken Chase too. I will say that. But at the same time, again, let's finish out this, and I've got kind of a rant on the QB situation here in Dynasty. So then JCJ, obviously we've had him on in front of the. That was Reckless that made the last pick right now, but JCJ, Jamar Chase at the 111. I know he's thrilled with that. I absolutely know he is. There's not much to say there. It's Jamar Chase. Goma Juice picked at the 112 at the turn, and in classic Gus fashion, he picked Dak and CD. So. There you get the stack, and honestly, taking Dak and CD last year, Dak has played decent this year, and CD has played like the wide receiver we expected him to grow into. He is the wide receiver 7 now. I mean, he's jumped up quite a bit, but he's the wide receiver 7 in PPR leagues, 6 in standard leagues. He's playing at a very, very high level. Dak is a quarterback. I'd still rank Dak over Lawrence. I still rank him over Tua. You can't blame anybody for
taking him over Tua.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't blame anybody for taking. They're probably in the same tier. So
interesting.
So I don't really.
Okay. Even though Tua's performing at a much higher level than Dak is in fantasy.
In terms of 19 points per game versus 17. So, I mean, yeah, a little bit, but that's not much. I mean,
I mean, to be fair, so is Tua. That's why both of their averages have gone down. Tua only played. Yeah.
I mean,
part of a game or two.
When it comes down to it, I mean, I think Dak's a better passer than Tua is. So
okay.
I trust him more long term, slightly. I like Tua now.
That's fine. I don't know if you're taking Dak and CD though, just for the stack's sake, like if there were a better QB available at that point.
Well, and I think that's what I would have done here.
You would have taken the stack.
I would have taken 2 QBs.
Oh,
which you'll see is what I do.
I agree with you there.
And here's the thing. And his strategy is always going to be never to draft running backs in the top like 3 rounds, which is great until everybody takes that strategy on, and we're going to talk about that here. Back to JCJ, he took the 101. Okay, so now we've got our first rookie pick in here, and he designated that the 101 would be Bijan Robinson. So you see Bijan already going fringe first round in startups. People expect him, and in this dynasty draft, he was the 101. Or I'm sorry, the RB1, so the first running back drafted. And obviously, I think part of the reason he's being drafted here is because people will sell the farm to get him. And I told him it was a good pick. I mean, honestly, when you look at how they're valuing even early 23 first, let alone the 101, I mean, people think Bijan is like the second coming. They legit think so highly of this dude that come draft time, you're going to be able to trade him for so much. I take him. Yeah. I thought about. I mean, it's hard because of the quarterback situation in Dynasty right now. But honestly, like I think you could take Bijan in the first, and you could trade him and get a great return.
Yes,
on him.
And that's why I'm not against. I'm not against this pick at all. Not because I don't know what JC was thinking when he did this pick. If he was like Bijan is this good, I think he should go here.
No, that's not what he said.
I think it's because of the value, and I think
he said people would
smart.
sell their firstborn child for Bijan.
Oh my gosh,
which is legit.
That is so accurate.
It's a smart pick. Reckless went back and picked Lawrence. So now Reckless is set up with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. He's the first person in this draft with 2 QBs. And honestly, you're going to see why this is the way to go. Trevor Lawrence obviously tore everything in his knee yesterday and then somehow is fine and kept playing and nothing's wrong. Probably a sprain or something, but it looked really bad. You can't go wrong picking Trevor Lawrence here. And then the next pick was me. I picked Tua Tagovailoa. Again, he's a quarterback in a super flex league. I lock up both of my quarterback spots. And honestly, he's in this tier now. He's got the weapons locked up. Tyreek's going to be there for a long time. They're going to keep Waddle there. He's on a rookie deal, so they're both going to be locked in for the next 3 years at least. I'm looking at Tua throwing to those dudes and Gesicki and playing with the GOAT, Mike McDaniel. And I'm like, why not take him? Why? I mean, and here is the big reason why. And I'm going to go on my little rant now, if that's okay.
Go for it.
The next best quarterback after Tua,
I was thinking the exact same
is
thing.
Trey Lance or Russell Wilson or Stafford, Rodgers, Carr, Jones. The teardrop in Dynasty in QBs this year is ginormous. I mean, it is astronomical. You are going down to guys with either a ton of risk or a severe drop in production. To me, getting those 2 QBs locked up right away was an absolute no-brainer. The guys left. And here's the thing. You'll notice that Jonathan Taylor has not been picked yet. And although I've said on record that I will be drafting differently this year and I'll be taking running backs in later rounds, I don't like the early running back strategy. I love Jonathan Taylor. I love his value as he slides to the mid-second. However,
love it.
To me, that is not as important as getting that last elite performing quarterback, and that is Tua. So now what's happening is these guys' second quarterbacks, while you can have an elite roster everywhere else and have one elite quarterback and still perform at a very high level from a fantasy standpoint, it's kind of a shot in the dark in terms of is this guy going to suck or not? Because a lot of these guys do, like Russ.
Yeah, honestly, after Tua and Lance, I'm not even saying Lance is going to produce at an elite level, but he still has elite value because of the draft capital the Niners invested in him. But after Lance and maybe Russ with the contract, the next QB I'm taking is Kirk Cousins. I think he's by far and away the best quarterback left on the board.
Yeah.
He has the most long-term security out of any of them because he's not incredibly old and he is not going to be replaced like Goff probably will be next year.
Right.
Daniel Jones, all those guys, heck, even Derek Carr, who knows where he's going to end up. And these are talking fantasy production too. Like Cousins is out producing all of these guys. He has some bust
I think
weeks,
Cousins might be the next best option.
I seriously do. And I think he's worth taking in the fourth round.
I mean, just purely based on scarcity alone, like absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm past the fact that, JT's still on the board. I've got to lock up quarterbacks. So Reckless has 2 quarterbacks locked up. I've got 2 quarterbacks locked up. Now it's looking at a huge tier drop, and let's see how things shake out. So
when the receivers start going.
Yes. So Creeks takes A.J. Brown here. Nathan took Jalen Waddle on accident.
I meant to take Jonathan. No, I didn't mean to.
I would have taken Jonathan.
I was rapid picking because I was busy during the draft, and I just assumed Jonathan Taylor was gone. What kind of dedication
is that?
I assumed he was gone by the 2-6.
So he wasn't.
I could not believe that no running back had gone off the board yet.
So let's talk about each of these wide receivers. A.J. Brown over Jonathan Taylor.
I don't.
Okay.
I personally don't have a problem with that.
I don't think that's terrible.
I don't have
A.J.
an issue
Brown
with that
is
at all.
underrated and tearing it up. He's a wide receiver. All right, I'm fine with that. Jalen Waddle and Stephon Diggs. Waddle, probably not. Stephon Diggs, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Definitely
Stephon.
not. I mean,
now Waddle. I will say this with Waddle. If I had known that JT was still on the board and Waddle was there, I probably again would have picked JT. If I had picked Waddle, my reasoning would have been because of how highly people value him, and they will continue to fade Tyreek Hill over the next couple of years.
So
because he's getting close to the big 3-0. And I have a major problem with that. I think A.J. Brown is greater than Jalen Waddle in terms of dynasty value, but because of the perceived market value of Jalen Waddle and what you could get for him in return, I don't think it's terrible to say that you're taking Waddle in a startup over Jonathan Taylor.
Did you say he was getting close to 30?
Who, Tyreek?
Tyreek. Okay.
Yeah, I thought
you were talking about Waddle.
I said people value Waddle so highly because they're going to continue to fade Tyreek because he's getting closer to the big 3-0.
Okay, let's talk about Diggs.
Diggs has to be going after
We love
JT.
Stephon Diggs. Okay, we sat and sang his praises all offseason. He's playing with maybe the best quarterback in the NFL, getting elite volume, performing at an absolutely elite level. You're looking at Stephon Diggs' production this year, and he is the wide receiver 5 in PPR leagues. He's scoring 22 points a game. Absolutely ridiculous. We are playing Dynasty. The dude is 29 years old. Jonathan Taylor, I get that running backs do not hold their value and they can crash at any instant and they're super volatile. I'm basing my own draft strategy on that concept. But this is, you're talking about a 23-year-old elite running back, arguably, depending on who you ask, between him and Bijan.
I think it's funny that it's even an argument.
I know. At the very least, I would be willing to admit they're in the same tier. Given that, Jonathan Taylor is still regarded by many as the RB1 in Dynasty. On a value perspective alone, you are getting so much more if you're taking Jonathan Taylor over Stephon Diggs. Regardless of your personal convictions and regardless of what it's cool to do, which this is what I'm figuring out, because I was very willing to admit that taking running backs last year early in the draft was a mistake, and I'm going to go quarterback and receiver and then maybe start taking off running backs. And I'll call it the Gus strategy because he perfected it. I thought he did a really good job drafting last year. I'm not the only one that thinks that. And now you've got people that it's the cool thing to do, and they're just going to do it to do it. Stephon Diggs over Jonathan Taylor, that was not the greatest pick I've ever seen in my life.
And guys, we are big Stephon Diggs truthers. We love the man. We love his contract situation and him being tied to Josh Allen for really the next 6 years,
Taylor.
But not over Jonathan Taylor.
And look,
the funny thing is, I heard earlier today from someone who shall not be named. He said Jonathan Taylor is the biggest 101 fantasy bust in the history of fantasy. Have you not seen what CMC did the last 2 years? 0 points.
Boy.
It's funny that JT absolutely from where he went in terms of fantasy drafts, he busted for sure. It's funny that his down year, he's still averaging 14.5 points per game.
And that's not. I mean,
Like,
look to live up to his value. He has to. He
absolutely has to produce an elite level for sure.
But he's 23.
Yeah, and he's gonna get the bag. They let. I'm so sorry. Can you tell I'm sick? He's gonna get the bag. The reason
Oh my gosh.
they let go of Nyheim Hines for that reason. They're gonna invest all of their money in this man for the foreseeable future. Stephon Diggs, guys. Yes, 6 more years with Josh Allen. If he continues at an elite level 2 years down the road after 2024,
Which I would bet he will.
yeah, but after 2024, he does have a potential out where the Bills would save. Keep in mind, Josh Allen is on a $250 million deal. The Bills would save. Do this math for me. Almost $60 million.
Yeah, but
$60 million. $20 million a year.
even outside of that, that's not my primary concern. Is just the value. Nobody's gonna trade Jonathan Taylor for Stephon straight up. But if you offered somebody Jonathan Taylor for Stephon, they would be like, yeah, take Stephon. I'd be like, see ya, bye.
Yeah, I'll take JT.
It's on the principle of value. Stephon Diggs here over Jonathan Taylor, it was a bad pick.
Yeah, and guys, look at this. You're probably watching this on YouTube being like, who is this guy that can't talk? But at least listen to this from my miserable voice. Jonathan Taylor is such a buy right now in Dynasty. It's not even funny. He is one of the best values that you are going to get with this 2023 class coming in.
Look,
he is a buy. I sold him. I got him and Lazard, and I sold Deebo Samuel and DeAndre Hopkins
embarrassing
to a contender. I'm getting excited, so I can't talk.
I know you gotta take a chill pill.
Yeah.
No, Jonathan Taylor is a buy. Look, you can't blame, and I'll wrap this up. You don't want to hear us talk about Taylor. You can't blame a lot of what was happened this year with Taylor on Taylor because the offensive. I mean, the man is getting hit at the line every play and turning it into 4 yards
every
time. He is an elite running back, an elite talent. He has proven he can be very durable up until he missed a couple games this season. Not concerning, not a long-term thing. Jonathan Taylor. Again, you got to take him over Stephon. Tyreek goes at the 2.9. Don't hate this.
No, I like it.
Tyreek obviously having a historic season. He looks great. He's locked in there. He's got a $100 million contract. What else can you say about that? Mark Andrews at the 2.10. I also like probably the tight end 1 in Dynasty. Actually, definitely the tight end 1 in Dynasty. You cannot go wrong taking him anywhere really past the first round. I mean, I really think once the quarterbacks are gone and you're looking at skill position players, like you looking at Mark Andrews.
Take the best player available.
Yeah, absolutely. Breece Hall at the 2.11. Look, if Breece Hall had not torn his ACL, Breece Hall would be going
in the first round.
He'd be going in the top 5.
You're probably right.
I think he'd be going with J. Jeff.
I think I'm with you.
So this is risky by Rybread, but in my opinion, it's a good bet.
He could even reap
an ACL.
He could even reap the benefits of selling Breece if he ends up getting back to the value that he was pre-injury. If people get all excited about him. Which running,
he did set himself up to kind of rebuild/reload next year, probably.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect Breece to produce at a full strength level, but we'll see. And then Score took Pitts at the 2.12 here. Again, kind of the same thing. I don't know if I like Pitts over a lot of these guys.
We are so divided about Kyle Pitts, not between the two of us, but together. We literally go back and forth about Kyle Pitts.
The man had a historic rookie season, but at the same time, he's been terrible. It's not just him. I don't think he's been terrible. I think the Falcons are terrible for him. And I think everybody would agree. Arthur Smith, obviously, in terms of producing any kind of fantasy relevant players,
here's
ideal.
my thing. Here's my thing with that pick. If you trade Kyle Pitts, you're still getting a wild amount of value. And again,
I just don't see him
next
being moved
season
a lot,
when
though.
he produces at a high level for a game or two, you can ship him off and get some really good assets. So in that way, I think that's a fine market value at the 2.12 for Kyle Pitts.
Yep.
My thing is if you're getting Kyle Pitts to keep Kyle Pitts at the 2.12 on your roster for long term, I would say why are you drafting a guy whose elite production is a fantasy lifetime away?
Probably.
I'm letting Pitts go and I'm picking up Kelsey later. No problem.
Yeah, let's get into the third round where Kelsey goes, and then a couple guys that I think should have gone before Pitts go as well. So at the 3-1, Gus, it was a third round reversal, by the way. 3-1, Gus took DK. I'm fine with that.
I like it.
I think DK has proven that he's going to be quarterback proof in terms of, I know that Lockett has been better this year. They've both been good. Geno has been good. I mean, DK, not the most spectacular year. He's the wide receiver 15, but at the same time, as soon as they get a better quarterback in there, which probably is 2 years out, I think Geno is there next year. I mean, he's legit. I know, and here's the thing. He's already 24, so I get that, but he's playing at a very high level. He's young. He's tall, fast, big, all that.
Yeah, I know everyone values him so high. So high.
Everyone values him so high.
Because he's big. What I will say is I've never been a huge DK fan, but that's in terms of being an NFL receiver. His fantasy volume, his target volume is insane. He's literally better with Geno.
All right, now I'll start talking again. All right, so add the 3-2 here. You have the 102 rookie pick. So then he's going to take Bryce Young here. Probably could take him or Stroud. I think Stroud, as it sits right now, he's the favorite to go 101 in the draft. I think it could be Bryce Young as well. You really can't go wrong here with either of them, so I think that's probably the value pick. Reckless took Garrett Wilson at the 3-3. I love this pick. He was one of 3 guys that I was willing to take here at the 3-4 behind him, and then when we got there, I took Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh. Look, we've taken our L on Amon-Ra. This is me really taking my L, because obviously I wasn't drafting him last year. I said
you were lower on him than any of us.
Yeah, and I was wrong. So I'll take Amon-Ra. He's producing at an elite level. He's 23 years old. He's the wide receiver 6 in fantasy right now, PPR leagues. I don't know what else you could look for in a wide receiver. I'm really happy I get Amon-Ra to complement Lamar and Tua. I'm happy with my team so far. At the 3-5 goes Travis Kelce. Let's talk about this.
Love it.
I won't spend too much time on this. So Kelce's obviously he's a top 3 tight end all time, if not the GOAT, when it's said and done.
I'd say he's a GOAT.
So this is not questioning what he's done, what his career success has been like, or anything like that. But when I'm looking at Kelce, and to be honest, the guys that really, are you really taking Kelce over Olave?
That's tough.
In Dynasty, I just would smash Olave.
I'd probably go Olave. Yeah. I don't hate the pick for a contender though.
What about? Are you taking Kelce over Stroud?
Over the pick? No.
I'd take Stroud.
You're paying for the pick, not the player.
Right.
Now let me say this. Okay. In 2022, Mark Andrews is the tight end 2. Okay. In tight end premium leagues. He has put up, say the number for me, in PPR. You don't see it, do you? 154 points.
What are you talking about? I don't see a number.
Mark Andrews has put up that many points as a tight end too.
Oh yeah, I don't have it pulled up.
Kelce, on the other hand, has put up total 246 points.
Look, he's outscoring everybody at an astronomical rate right now,
more than any other tight end.
And look, you can even say Kelce would be the next tight end off the board.
He's a cheat code. He's a cheat code as a tight end.
Yeah,
it's unfair.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's just guys I like. When I am looking at this, and you're taking him over Debo and Kupp and all that.
Do you think Kelce should be going in the 4th?
I think even later 3rd I'd be okay with. There were just a couple guys here that I thought were better picks, but to be honest,
Lance.
I think London too.
I'd take Lance.
T. Higgins probably. Saquon.
Okay.
I'd probably take all those guys over Kelce.
Okay,
but
I think Saquon's life is about as long as Kelce's. So I would. In a startup, I would have no problem going with Kelce.
Yeah.
Kelce.
So, again, it just depends there. He's definitely in that next tier behind Andrews and Pitts.
Uh-huh.
So then Nathan went ahead and took C.J. Stroud or the 103. He'd obviously take Stroud there, the second quarterback. Great pick. I think this is good value in the middle of the 3rd. I don't think anybody's complaining about this. Devontae Adams at the 3-7. Again, the guy's got a contract. He's performing at an elite level again. Carr sucks, and the Raiders suck, and McDaniel sucks, but Devontae Adams doesn't suck. And when it comes down to it, I think a lot of people get too caught up on age and old guys. And when you're looking at Travis's team, even though he took Diggs over Taylor, which was bad, he does have Hurts, Diggs, and Adams, which is a very good starting point for elite production on a Dynasty team. So I think I like that one too.
Yeah.
Trey Lance went by in Walker took Trey Lance at the 3-8. Thoughts on this? Any thoughts before you lose your voice more?
Yeah. Let's see if I can get through a whole sentence. I love this value for Trey Lance. I'm the first to tell you that I don't like Trey Lance. I don't want Trey Lance on my team long term. I want no part in him long term.
I mean, he hasn't played in 3 years.
I want no part in him whatsoever.
All right.
I do want him in startups.
Yep.
I've become a firm believer in not drafting a rebuild or not drafting a productive struggle, not drafting a contender roster in a startup draft.
Draft the value.
Draft the value. And you can turn it into whatever you want after the draft. This is why people dig themselves in holes in Dynasty, is how they start off. Because they're reaching for guys that they think are going to have future value. Trey Lance is no longer a reach. Trey Lance was going at the end of the first round last year when he had never played.
Yeah.
Now he's going
as soon as he flashes again, you're selling him for a ton more than
selling
this.
Selling so
I think that's the
much.
best way to put it.
Love it.
So the wide receivers that win next are Kupp and Debo. Look, I like Kupp at the 3-9 a lot. I think people are down on him because of his injury. I think he'll come back next year. And
yeah, I'm fine with that.
I mean, the thing is, he's white, so Stafford's going to throw him the ball, and he's going to be. I mean, he's going to produce at a high level. Even after missing 2 games, I think somebody said he was like the wide receiver 5 still. Like, the man is incredible in terms of how many targets and catches he gets, and he's special.
He's missed 4 games now, basically, and he's still wide receiver 8.
Yeah. Debo at the 310. What a fall from grace for Debo. You know, I don't think I'm touching Debo at this point. I think he's pretty risky. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he jumped back up in terms of production, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this was where Debo landed. Like, so I think it's risky.
I'll take a Debo L.
Yeah,
big time.
I think. But here's the thing with Debo. Like, I'm looking at the wide receivers here, and I like London more, and I like Olave more, a lot more than Debo. I would smash those guys over Debo. And even Kupp, like, honestly, the only gripe I have with the Kupp is Olave is producing at a very high level too, and you could have taken him, and he's a very young cornerstone. London's not producing at that level, and there's a lot more risk.
In terms of offensive system, are you taking Pittman over Debo?
I don't like either of those guys in fantasy, really.
Marquise, Godwin?
Not yet. That's really hard. Come back to me in 3 weeks and ask me. I don't know. I just don't know what to think of Debo right now. I'm kind of just avoiding the question. I will say Swift at the 311 is not great because Kenneth Walker is still on the board. I mean, Kenneth Walker is so much more valuable than Swift. I mean, Kenneth Walker is the RB 1 or 2 on Keep Trade Cut pretty consistently.
That's another L.
Take the
Swift.
Yeah.
For us.
Take the value again. Take Walker, take Barkley. Swift you could have gotten probably in the 5th. Pretty easily. I mean, people are way down on Swift right now. I like Swift as a buy right now. I do. I don't know. I like him.
You said you hated him as a buy not that long ago, like a couple weeks ago.
No, I said
you said you weren't touching.
I said, is there a point? What I said was, is there a point that he drops to where you're actually looking to buy him? And I said top 8, and I said I don't think if he drops out of the top 8, I would buy him. But he slid too low. Now I would buy him.
Oh, so you changed your mind?
He slid out of the top 12.
Right.
I mean, people think he's the third string running back.
You said you weren't buying him regardless.
No, I said if he slid out of the top 8, I wouldn't buy him.
He's a buy.
I remember exactly what I said. He's absolutely a buy. He slid too low for me.
Yeah, but don't draft him there.
No, not there. T at the 312 is the last pick of this episode. It's T. Higgins. Look, he's playing with Joe Burrow. He's played very well this year. He's the wide receiver 13 or 14 in PPR league, so he's almost a wide receiver 1. He's obviously 23, so he's super young. He's averaging 15 points a game in PPR leagues. It's a cornerstone receiver, and you got to like T. Higgins there. So, all right, that was 3 rounds. We're going to do the next 3 rounds next week and some outliers. Really biggest takeaways from this, everybody, the cool thing to do is going to be not to draft running backs now, but if value falls to you, take the value every single time. Regardless of your personal convictions, the way that you lose in Dynasty is if you just take small chunks of value and throw them out the window, like we've seen a couple times in this draft. Jonathan Taylor, I'm fine with him going mid-second. Sorry. I saw him slide this far, and I'm not necessarily super upset about who was taken in front of him. That being said, there were a couple that were a little bit egregious. The quarterbacks are going to be slim pickings in Dynasty this year, so locking up 2 of them is probably a pretty good idea. I think the end is the place to be in Dynasty drafts this year, especially in third-round reversals. Like, I'm fighting to be at the end, but in DD leagues, we randomize, so we're going to be coming out with some new DD leagues here after the fantasy season ends, so make sure you watch out for that. We'll get you hooked up there. Next week, we'll be back. We'll have the next 3 rounds and then the rest of the analysis of the final 6 and what stood out to us, where people went, the highlights, etc. That's going to wrap it up for this week. So make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify in the podcast form, thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe there and hit a like on our show. As always, we appreciate you listening. Thanks for joining us. This has been Dynasty Domain.